You're listening to Travel Tales with Fergal.
Hello, my name is Fergal O'Keefe and you're very welcome to the podcast. I was born and grew up in Ennis, County Clare, and I've always noticed that when anyone ever asks me where I was from and I reply Clare, that it always brings a smile to their face, which in turn fills me with pride. And I don't think I've ever met a Clare person that doesn't love Clare. When you ask a Clare person for recommendations, you always get a long list. That is why I've had to do 2 Clare destination specials to help do justice to this stunning county on the west coast of Ireland. I've interviewed 8 Clare people for this podcast, and their love for their county really shines through in both episodes. Part 1 today, you will hear from Councillor Tony O'Brien, the Cathaoirleach of Clare County Council, who gives a great Clare tourism overview. Clare is synonymous with traditional music. Then you will get to hear from Charles Munnett of the tunes from Doolin fame. Then you get to hear from Nuala Mulwiney of the award-winning Alwee Burren experience. And finally, you'll hear from Arlene White of Clare Walks, who shares her highlights of East Clare. Check out visitclare.ie website for more information on all things Clare. And now let's talk to Councillor Tony O'Brien. So what makes Clare so special? What makes it different from the rest of the Wild Atlantic Way?
What I would say is at the outset is what makes Clare unique and special is its people. Mm-hmm. I think the warmth and the reception people receive when they come to visit County Clare and the passion that people have for what they're involved in, whether it's music, in the art side of things, dancing, or culture, whether it's the food, the Burren way, the local producers, it's the passion that they put into what it is they're involved in. And you'll find that right across the spectrum when you visit County Clare. There's just a unique passion for what they do and for the service that they provide. And I think that's what sets us apart. I mean, we have what I consider a unique offering for tourism. If you take from Loophead Lighthouse right up to Ballyvaughan on the Wild Atlantic Way. I must also speak about later on Ireland's hidden heartlands, because my own area of East Clare is really hidden and it's a real gem. So right across County Clare we have a very special and unique product to give. You come from Loophead Lighthouse right up to Spanish Point into Milltown Malbay, the Willie Clancy Week. You have the music, the tradition, you have the scenery, you have the beaches. And all along there, you will find unique indigenous little restaurants, food producing outlets, all doing their own animal farms, everything, there's something for everybody to do, whether it's the hiker, the walker, whether it's the children, to entertain the children in the animal farms and stuff. People do it with a passion, and they do it as a business, but they do it because they love it, and that comes comes through very clearly when people come to visit us, and that's why people come back to County Clare.
True. I mean, you're right. I mean, like Loophead, and then there's the Kilkee, and you've got Doombeg and up to Lahinch. You said Spanish Point. Place I love near Liscannor is Clahan for diving off the rocks, and they're all so different from each other, all the way to the cliffs, which are world famous.
Again, another area that sets us apart is that you can explore all the time, no matter how well you think you know Clare. Even for us locals, no matter how well you think you know the place, there is always somewhere to find. There's always somewhere that you haven't been to. And you know what? How did we miss this? How did we not know that this was here, And that's what I think that's what's unique about Clare. Because again, I'm going back to, you asked, the very first question you asked was what makes it special. And it's that collaboration, it's that willingness to work with one another and to support one another and help one another out. So, that to me is unique as well. I don't think they have that quite to the same extent in many more places.
You won a couple of awards recently, didn't you? Wasn't that only in the last week or two?
We were voted, we won a number of awards at the recent Local Authority Awards night in Dublin. But the most outstanding award is, and this is our second time winning it, that we won the Local Authority of the Year Award 2022 for our work and collaboration. And one of the major inputs, there was a lot of stuff in that, points that you had to criteria that you had to meet. But one of the major ones in it would have been the collaboration with communities and our ability to work, support, and help communities to help themselves. And I think that's what makes us unique. Whoever is listening here today, come to County Clare. You will always find something to do in County Clare. I'm from a part of the county which is in Ireland's hidden heartlands on the banks of the River Shannon, Killaloo. Beautiful town, heritage town of Killaloo. We have East Clare and Ireland's hidden heartlands over there. The highest point in County Clare is Mylossa, which is situated on the east of the county, looking over the majestic River Shannon, and it's in the Slieve Barna range. And what a beautiful climb on any day, winter, spring, summer, or autumn. You're looking down at the beautiful River Shannon and the beautiful mountain walk that you have going up there and descending. So we have everything in County Clare. And where I'm living in Killaloo, I suppose, and this is what I wanted to get across from the Ireland's hidden heartlands and to transcend through the beautiful capital town of Ennis to get onto the Wild Atlantic Way. You're only talking about an hour, 20 minutes of a drive.
Exactly.
No, that's if you go direct. But there is so much to do in between. Give yourself a couple of days and you will just absolutely have a fantastic time exploring County Clare.
Yeah, and actually something that was so important for Clare, we now have we've listeners in over 100 countries, and it's important to say to people that we're so lucky, Clare, to have that amenity of Shannon and the amount of flights from all over the world coming in there now. It's amazing to have that, and so it makes Clare so accessible.
Absolutely, and I think one of the great assets we have in the county is Shannon Airport. For sure we do need further connectivity. But if you can fly into Shannon, and anybody that's listening to us here, I would encourage them, to fly into Shannon Airport. It's a very, very user-friendly airport. It's one of the designated age-friendly airports in Ireland. Really, really a fantastic airport. And you're straight into your tourist experience, and you're straight into County Clare and what we have to offer by coming into Shannon Airport.
Charles, how's it going? You're very welcome to the podcast. Great to see you.
Thank you so much, Fergal. Thanks for having me.
You're living in Doolin, aren't you?
I am, yeah.
And you know what? We're going to talk about Doolin and activities and the music and everything. But I just want to say that, I grew up in Ennis, and when I was young, actually, I was probably a bit unusual. As in, I remember my leaving cert year, I used to go up and camp in Doolin just to listen to the trad music. And I loved it so much. I used to go out to the Aran Islands and the ferry, but I spent a lot of time around Doolin, and it was for the music. And for me, because it's in the mountain, it's kind of nearly surrounded by the hills and this little village with music everywhere. And for me, it's the heart of Clare, the heart of traditional music. I'd go the heart of Ireland.
Doolin has always had a kind of magnetism to it. People love coming here, whether people from all parts of the world, people from Ireland, people from Clare. I guess it's really at a crossroad where everything meets. It's kind of on the edge. It's in the Burren, yet it's on the edge. It's beside the cliffs of Moher. It has the ferries to the Aran Islands. It has the music. It has great food. So there's that mixture of everything. And what we always end up telling people, what made the success of Doolin is probably its people more than anything else. Ultimately, the reason why people keep coming back is the people,
Yeah, and it has the crack. And what I loved about it, I used to always go to Gus O'Connor's, and I was always amazed at the staff, because I'm from a pub background. They were always smiling, and the place was full, literally from morning to night every day. Mm-hmm. And I always, they loved it, and there was always trad. And the musicians, you could really see that the musicians, it wasn't a job for them. They came there, they're chatting to people, their smiles in their faces. It really is. It's the essence of trad music, I would say.
There is, yeah. It's a very important aspect of what happens in Doolin and why people love coming here. And as a musician myself, I like when visitors actually come and talk to musicians, when there's an interaction between the music makers and the listeners. It's when the magic happens, because if you want to have a great session, the audience is as much part of it as the musicians themselves, you know, and the staff. Like you mentioned, the staff.
Yeah.
It's, you need everyone to kind of get together in a special way that make the crack happen.
It's true. And it's funny because I'd always be looking around at the foreign tours to see, I'd kind of get a buzz out of their enjoyment. Do you know what I
Yes.
mean? Go, I see, oh, they're getting it. And I love that. And they're going to, actually, I remember the first time I really, that Doolin went on my radar was as a teenager. An article in Time magazine famously talked about Doolin and Gus O'Connor's as the heart of trad music. And I think that's what set it on its route.
Yes, the, like how Doolin became so famous for traditional music is a very long story, but without going into too many details, you'd have the central character would have been Michael Russell and his brother and the other local musicians, and they always played, you know, the music of older days and the songs and the storytelling, like just folklore in general. And I think what happens, they were lucky to find each other. So Maiko and all the other musicians were playing in different places around the village, but in O'Connor's pub in particular, I suppose, where Gus and Dull were working at the time when they were running the pub from the 60s onwards, they gave them a very warm welcome. And they gave everyone a very warm welcome. And you have to remember that it wasn't always the case for musicians to be welcome in public settings and in pubs. Like a lot of time they would be looked at, like if you're playing music, you're kind of lazy, you should be working, you should be doing something else with your life. And they got that welcome to come and play in the local pubs. And then people came to listen to, first it was actually archivists and collectors that put Doolin on the radar. And then as the folk revival happened, people came to listen to the pure drop, they called it. And just from then on, it's just a snowball effect, you know, more people come, so more people join in and learn how to play, and it just build up to what we know now.
Such a generation, and like people like Sharon Shannon would go there. She was like an early teen, and she would be playing there.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of Ireland's most famous musicians have come through Doolin at one stage or another, and a lot of the top class musicians now, I'm thinking like of Frankie Gavin, for example, would have been friendly with Maiko and would have come to Doolin, or Paddy Keenan, who's been a regular visitor for I'd say over 40 years easily. It has that magnetism with musicians, with listeners, visitors. It's special.
And just out of interest, like traditional music, does it vary county to county? Like, is there something unique or different about Clare trad?
It does. There's a lot of different regional styles. So West Kerry music would be very specific, or even in Clare there would be East Clare and North Clare and West Clare. Some people would even say the Aina Valley has its own style. Donegal is very different. So in Clare, I suppose it's extremely strong, probably stronger than anywhere else in Ireland, and that comes from the fact that it's a really community thing. It's part of everyday life. You know, any weddings, funerals, any event, public event, you know, like Christmas fairs are coming up. There's going to be traditional music at every Christmas fair. So it's really part of everyday life for everyone. And I think that's just why it's so popular. Because if you take, so Doolin, you have music every day of the year, like literally, and in the height of the season for 6 months of the year, 6 to 9 months, you have like a minimum of 4 sessions, if not 5, every night in the village.
It's like a mini fla, isn't it? Every night.
Constant. Like if you want to go down and have the crack, there's always going to be something happening. But other places in Clare have a lot of music too. You know, Ennis has had a lot more music too. So yeah, Clare is really the home of Irish music, you could say.
And people now, if they listen to you for a few minutes, they might have an inkling of a little accent. Is that what, you're not from Clare originally? So where did you come from? And is that how you ended up how did you end up in Clare?
Yeah, I always joke about my I have a French Swiss accent, as I call it, French Swiss Clare accent. I'm
Exactly.
I'm from Switzerland originally, from the French part of Switzerland, and I came to Doolin in 2006 to learn English, pretty much. And I just happened that the job I got was in a cafe, which was also a music shop. So the first summer I was here was just given a tin whistle and just
Oh
like,
yeah.
there you go, in your spare time, learn a tune or two. And you learn one tune, you learn two, you learn three, then you've 10, 50, and then you stop counting. But I just kept at it.
Yeah.
I just kept at it.
And you do a great thing called Tunes from Doolin.
Yeah, that's a project I've been working on as a hobby first. I started in 2011. I was basically teaching myself how to play the concertina and also how to build websites all at the same time. So what I did was I was practicing my web design skills by publishing tunes that I was learning.
Wow.
And 10 years later, it's become a part-time job where it's like a tune archives with nearly 500 tunes on it. And I do a YouTube channel. I have a podcast. Obviously, playing sessions and gigs and concerts all over the village and other places in Clare is a big, big part of my job now. Yeah.
I'd really recommend people to listen to that if they want to delve more into the history and the music and hear tunes to go to that Tunes from Doolin. Is it tunesfromdoolin.ie, is it? Or
Tunesfromdoing.com,
oh,
actually. Yeah.
tunesfromdoolin.com. Okay. And you mentioned there about there's trad all year, and that's the great thing about Doolin. There's music every night of the week, and there's also something that's kind of developed over the last few years is festivals. It's becoming well known now for festivals. Is there could you give us a few ideas about festivals for people?
Yeah. There's loads. So probably the longest running festival in Doolin is the Russell Festival Weekend, which is in memory of Maiko, Paki, and Gussie Russells, and we try to also remember the other local traditional musicians. And that takes place on the last weekend of February every year. So this year it's the 23rd to the 27th of February. And that's a festival that has concerts and sessions. It's really focused on traditional music. So that will be the oldest festival. But then now for a good few years, we've had the Doolin Folk Festival that takes place at Hotel Doolin in June every year. And so they've broadened the spectrum of music. So it has traditional music, but also more generally folk music. So it's a wider audience, and it's a wonderful festival in the summer for the village to have, because obviously the festival takes place at Hotel Doolin, but it sort of has, every pub would have the extra sessions, and the village is buzzing, actually. And then you have actually the next festival that's happening at the end of January is Hedge School, which is also organized by Hotel Doolin. It's a festival that's really for anyone who sort of consider themselves creators or artists, or just people who love art. They're trying to put together a place for collaborations where artists and audience can meet, but also master and students. So there's a lot of workshops and it's art of any kind, any genre. There's music, there's filmmaking, there's dance. So very, very general, open to all kinds of art forms.
Getcha. And we talk about Doolin, and it's the heart of West Clare, really. And as you said, there's so much around it, like the ferries out to Aran Islands, which was particularly in Inisheer. I think it's only about 20 minutes. I would so recommend that to people to go out to Inisheer from Doolin, because even for day trips, like it's perfect. And then something else I would recommend for people, I'd be interested to hear what you think about it, but I'd say one of the best walks in Ireland is actually the cliff walk from Doolin up to the Cliffs of Moher. You can actually walk up, and that's just amazing, isn't it?
Oh, the Cliffs of Moher walking trail is such, like you said, probably one of the most beautiful walks in the country. And it has changed a lot of things in the village, because funny enough, the trail, I believe, is about 12 years old now, and it was a project that was led by several people, but most especially Pat Sweeney, who's a local farmer. So a lot of the walk would go on his land, and he does guided walks there, brings people to the cliffs. It's spectacular. The views are unbelievable, and it has attracted a lot of people that now really come, even if it's for the daytime. People used to come for, let's say, on a bus and then spend a few hours in the village. But now when people come to it, they know they have to stay here for at least 2 or 3 days, if not more, because there's so much to do. Like, you know, you were mentioning the Aran Islands, definitely one. But between the Cliffs Walk, the Burren, with Doolin Cave, which is kind of, it's not a secret at this stage anymore, but like with the third largest stalactite in the world here in Doolin, like, you know, it's pretty incredible. There's so much to do, really.
Yeah, and you know, like, and we forget, like, the cliffs, as we call it, like, you know, I mean, that's one of the best sites in the world. But I think particularly if you drive up, it's not the same. If you walk up from Doolin and the build up to it, I think that's the way to see it.
Rather than driving up to the Cliffs of Moher Visitor Centre, where you have great views, but when you do that walk, it builds up your expectation, and you sort of have the reward at the end, and it never disappoints.
Exactly.
Even, you know, I've done the walk, I don't know, 20, 30 times. Every single time you reach the top of that walk, you've been walking for a couple of hours. It's not a hard walk, but it will take, you know, the couple of hours. When you reach that point and you end up with that view, it's priceless.
Exactly. And I used to do a lot of scuba diving, actually, off of the island there, just off of Doolin and below the cliffs. And it was so amazing because you're out in the boat below the cliffs. And then when you go underwater, it's nearly like the cliffs underwater. So it was just amazing. People used to go, oh, it's cool, you know, compared to abroad. But I used to love it so much because it felt like a real adventure.
Yeah, people don't realize, actually, geologically speaking, so the Aran Islands would be part of the Burren, geologically speaking. So what happens when you go underwater? You've like an underwater Burren,
exactly,
made out of limestone, and it's really, really beautiful. Yeah, we're very lucky. Like, it's literally everything here on our doorstep.
Exactly.
But the other thing is, like I said earlier, you could have all of this, but if people didn't get the welcome that goes with it, it wouldn't have the same impact. So I think it's really the combination of all these things we've been talking about, and just how friendly and welcoming people are, that makes the difference.
Oh, definitely. And I would always say to people, you know, if they're asking for recommendations in Clare, I would go, like, you know, from Ennis Diamond to Lehidge to Liscannor, which is amazing for food, then the Cliffs of Moher to Doolin to Fanore, the Burn, you know, all the way up to Ballyvaughan. I would go, that is one of the best drives in Ireland. And every, you know, all those places I just mentioned are all so different.
Absolutely. And we all work together. Like, you know, it's kind of that North Clare, the Burren Geopark region, within we say maybe a 30 miles radius, which is really not much. You have so much, like, it's fascinating. And you know what, with the lockdowns and everything, it actually, people rediscovered that as well with the staycation, when people would actually book a holiday home and stay for a week. No one would get bored in a week. You still don't have enough time to do everything in a week. And so I think it has helped, with Irish people anyway, to kind of remember how much we have here on our doorstep.
And then if you stay in a place for longer, for a couple of days, that's when you get to know the people. And
Absolutely.
you know the guy in the bar or the person in the restaurant.
Absolutely. And that's what make people come back. Because we have, in Doolin, it's actually fascinating the amount of people that keep coming back and become friends with their accommodation provider, with staff in the pubs, with people in restaurants, in shops. They really sort of become part of a wider community from Ireland and other countries, like myself. There is sort of magnetism, once you've discovered the real essence of a place like Doolin, you just want more of it. Like, why would you go somewhere else, you know?
Nuala, you're very welcome to podcast.
Thank you very much, Fergal. Nice to be here.
You're the MD of the Alwee Burn Experience, and I was just looking up there, and you actually just got a couple of awards with the Irish Hospitality
Would
Awards.
you believe it? Yeah, your timing is very good, Fergal. Yeah, absolutely. No, we're delighted. Every year since 2016, 17, we have been lucky enough to be nominated in these Irish Hospitality Awards. Yeah, we came out as Family Venue of the Year in 2022, which is really lovely, and it's a testament to the people who visit us, Fergal. Do you know what I mean? We are a family venue, and we're kind of even more delighted this year because we've done somewhat of updates and that sort of thing. We've relit the cave, we've rebuilt the Bird of Prey Centre, so people obviously are liking what they're seeing when they're visiting us, So I think when you see something like that coming through, it gives you a little boost to know that you're doing the right thing.
Of course.
Yeah, we're open nearly 50 years as a business, and we would have nothing if it wasn't for our lovely cave, certainly, but the business has grown and has developed over the years. We've been making Burn Gold cheese now which is a geo food as well, and we've been making that for nearly 40 years, and we make 12 tons of that every season. And when I say that to people, they go, "What?" We have a collection of about anywhere between 25 and 30 birds of prey, indigenous and non-native species, and we talk an awful lot about the conservation of birds of prey and the reintroduction of birds of prey and how good they are for the ecosystem. So again, while the cave was our initial development, we have grown so much over the years, and so I think that the rebrand of Isle We Burn Experience is trying to encapsulate all of that, and so far so good. We have a bit of messaging to do, but we'll plough on. That's what we've been doing for 50 years, and I'm hopefully going to do it for a few more.
I'm originally grew up in Ennis in the 70s, so I'd say I was one of your. I remember going on a school tour. It was either the late 70s or early 80s,
for sure.
And then going back there in the last few years with my kids doing the Santa. I'd say a lot of people like me who go there as kids and then bring their kids there, intergenerational
thing. And we're delighted, and thank you so much for doing that, because that's what it's all about,
Yeah, the burn, because of the landscape, it changes so much depending on the time of year, and it can be very different, can't it?
Oh, Fergal, look, I used to live in Ennis, like you. Now I'm not a townie or anything like that. I'm from Kilfenora, but when I got married first, I lived in Ennis, and people who said to me, "My God, you've got a long commute," I said, "Look, the scenery changes." The flora and the fauna changes. My commute is one of people are so jealous of. We used to be jealous of my commute. If you had a rainy morning or a sunny morning, and especially this time of the year with the low sun hitting across the landscape, it's just beautiful. I couldn't. No, we're very lucky to be.
You're just remind. I used to live actually in Galway at one stage before I moved to Tipperary, and I used to dive off Doolin. Oh. And it's a good drive, but it never felt hard, because driving from Galway through Kinvara, past Ballyvaughan, all along, and especially in the evenings, with the sun going down.
Absolutely, and you'd see something different. It might pick out a church or a ruin or a new house or whatever, and say, "Jesus, I never saw that before." Do you know what I mean? So no, we never tire of it, and I think if the locals don't tire of it, it kind of passes on by osmosis, or whatever you want to say, to our visitors.
Exactly. And it was great to see the Irish Times this year. It was voted best holiday place in Ireland.
No, very, very, very proud of that. And that's a culmination of a lot of people doing exactly what we do here. Do you know what I mean? Welcoming people, educating people about the Burn region, and showing off the region to the people, and the variety of things there are to do, the variety of places there are to eat, the variety of places there are to stay. You know what I mean? So people often say to me, "Nuala, you need to identify your market," you know what I mean, and go after that market. Sure, our market is everybody, really, at every stage of life. Do you know what I mean? And like you say, for the long haul, because the next generation don't be long catching up with us, So, but that whole recognition as the Burn as best place to stay in Ireland. I mean, really and truly, it is very laudable. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God! But it's an effort that everybody has put in. Do you know what I mean? And it's not only the tourism industry. Everybody's. The tourism industry, I always feel, kind of is like an octopus. It leaches into lots of other industries. Do you know what I mean? So the farmers would be welcoming. We all like to see our visitors coming, and we want to show it off in the best possible light. And then we learn a little bit about the Burn ourselves as well, and that sort of thing. So yes, We're delighted with it. Of course, we reckon richly deserved, but don't sit on our laurels as well.
And there was another one I wanted to mention, was the Lonely Planet did an award. Was that to do with the Burn Ecotourism Network?
It was absolutely in just what we needed, because it was really we were in between lockdowns and that sort of thing, And I have to say, being a member of the Burn Ecotourism Network, and this is only one example, during COVID was an absolute lifeline for this business here, because there was only myself and one of the falconers here every day during lockdown, minding the birds, and that sort of thing. And it was desperately lonesome, So to have a network of, would you believe, 60 businesses, and from the minute lockdown happened, we were meeting on a weekly basis. Do you know what I mean? Online, to not to go dark. This was the whole idea, to keep the lights on in the burn, and take this opportunity, if you want to call it an opportunity. I know it sounds like a juxtaposition, but it was, and to let people know of the destination and that sort of thing. And I really do think that then we were recognized by the Lonely Planet, which, again, sometimes when you're working hard in a business, you say to yourself, I need to be making money all the time and I need to be doing this. And you're saying, can I justify spending time working with other businesses? And something like this really, for me, brought it into reality. Do you know that no man is an island, no woman is an island, and together we work much better. And if you want to call it a silver lining, if the things came down the line for the burn in North Clare, well then so be it. But it has really strengthened our relationships as well as businesses to get working together, because you learn more about each other. Even sitting for the hour on the Zoom call when you're going moaning and groaning and giving out, you have an appreciation for what it is for that other person and how they roll, So no, I always feel that kind of collaboration was good for the region, good for myself, good for our business, good for the region, good for the whole North Clare. And then to get the recognition from these highly, Lonely Planet. I mean, it doesn't get any higher than that, really. No, extremely lucky, but didn't go without a bit of hard work in the background as well.
And now I need to use you because you're a local and the burn. So I just want to get tips for people, if people are around that area. So your personal favorite. So just say for for food, where would you recommend around the area?
Yes. Yeah, there's some really great places to eat of all type of markets, if you know what I mean. If you're looking for family friendly and that sort of thing, there's a lovely pizzeria along there, along in Doolin there, the Stonewall Pizzeria, for example. More upmarket, you'd be looking at the Wild Honey Inn. I mean, look at we have a Michelin starred, and or restaurant as well in Doolin. Beside me here, then if you're going up towards Kinvara, and that you have the Lenans and Newquay. Gorgeous seafood, I happened to be talking to a lady from Bantry yesterday, and she said to me, you have the best seafood in Ireland, and coming from a lady from Bantry, I'll take that, thanks very much. And of course you can have some lovely ice cream from Bridget Linella there as well, so there's something for everybody, and then local to myself, I'm a Kilfenora lady, we have Vahans in Kilfenora, lovely family food as well, so you can eat well for all the family right across the burn,
And just say for a walk or a place or a beach, what would you recommend to people? What's your favorite? Yeah, well, I know you're going to say she's biased now, but the Ballyvaughan Loop Walk is a real dote. It's about 4 or 5 kilometers long, and you can hit it from Ballyvaughan and come around, and you get so much different terrain, different views. Do you know what I mean? You have farmland, and then you have lovely burn karst landscape and that sort of thing. Of course, it passes at the bottom of our road here as well. But there's some gorgeous ones as well. Lochivella is well known over towards Mullaghmore, there's a lovely walk from the Michael Cusick Centre in Cairn over around by the Cairn Thurlock, the Cairn Depression. Gorgeous again, various levels of ability and that sort of thing, but you'll be trying to think of something to suit everybody, Thank you so much. Your passion for the burn comes out, so it's great to hear that.
Yeah, no, I love it. And my daily commute from Kilfenora to the cave is along the R480, and I pass up by Lemonna Castle, and I come right through. You probably know it coming from Ennis. Do you know what I mean? It's the main. People say to me, "How do we get to Ennis?" Well, you come out of us and you turn left onto the R480, and you're driving through the burn landscape. It's a lovely, wide road, and the Pound Bowl Groundman is on it. Carconnell is on it. We're on it ourselves. Lovely vistas and that over Galway Bay and that sort of thing. So you could do worse than to have a day out along the R480, stopping off here and there as well, you know.
I know, I love that. My sister got married in Ballyvaughan many years ago, and I just remember that drive was so magical, like going to Ballyvaughan on that route, and it was
Oh. As I say, from Ennis to Ballyvaughan for nearly 10 years, my daily commute, and I wouldn't have changed it for the world.
I know. Arlene, you're very welcome to the podcast. You are part of Clare Walks, and East Clare is very well known for walking, and then Killaloe and the history of the area, and you're involved with the Killaloe Historical Society, so you're the perfect person to talk about this area, which a lot of people, when tourism wise, they talk about West Clare, but East Clare and around the Killaloe area, and it's got amazing history, amazing walks, and I think people should know more about it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, as you said, amazing history is one thing, which I love, but also the scenery around East Clare is just fascinating, because you have, you can walk right by the lake. Say, for example, in Killaloe or Whitegate or Mount Shannon, you can walk up through hills where you'd see nobody else, if that's what you're looking for. And of course, one of the very famous or popular walks in Killaloe would be the Ballycuggaran or Mylussa loop. So a lot of people would do that, start at 2 Mile Gate there and walk Ballycuggaran and then up to Mylussa, which is the highest point in County Clare.
You can see the views are just all around from there, can't you?
Yeah, it's spectacular up there on a clear day. It's absolutely amazing. Well worth the hike.
What is the Lochderg Way?
Yeah, the Lochderg Blue Way it's almost like a greenway on the water. So it's basically a kayaking or a paddling route that has been developed, and it's one of the first, I think, in Europe to be actually accredited, which is fantastic. And there's all, like everything, there's all little shorter loops developed off that. So you can go from Mount Shannon to Holy Island, you can go from Ballycuggaran down to Killaloe. There's a shorter loop around Killaloe. So that's literally just get your kayak and onto the lake. And again, it's looking at the area from a totally different perspective, to be, on the lake as opposed to on the land looking at the lake, and totally different views, everything.
I mean, the lake is amazing. I love, that's what I love about Killaloe. I mean, like for swimming or water sports, etc. It is amazing, isn't it?
It is, yeah. There's so much, you have a choice of everything, and you can get on a cruiser like Killaloe River Cruises, or you can hire your own boat. There's fishing, there's just sitting by the lake with a cup of coffee if you want, if you want to just relax. And as you said, swimming and, the water sports, kayaking and all that as well. So there's a bit of something for everyone, which is great,
And Killaloe just oozes history, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, there's from, I suppose, the time of Brian Boru to the more social history, which is, I suppose most towns have that, the shops and businesses around, or what was going on, the tourism industry, and like fishing and the boating and all that featured highly right through as well the 18th and 19th century in Killaloe. It was the place to be, apparently.
Like in Brian's Boru era, it was the capital of Ireland, wasn't it?
It was from 1002 to 1014. It was the capital of Ireland. I love telling that to Dublin people when they visit. Love telling that. But when Brian Boru became High King of Ireland, he actually broke with tradition, and he decided to stay in Killaloe and rule the country from Killaloe. He ruled the country really from the Royal Palace of Kincora, which is no longer in existence, but it would have been in the vicinity of where St. Flannan's Catholic Church is now, right at the top of the town in Killaloe. And that's where the country was ruled from there. So, and he had obviously the advantage of being near the river and kind of watching out for Viking attacks and everything that time. But it's I mean, there's fascinating history going from that time right up to the present day, obviously.
Exactly. And you're involved with Clare Walks, so there's some amazing walking around that area. Like, what is Clare Walks? Or
so it's run by a voluntary organization. The initial plan really of the directors, we have some directors that are still involved since for the last 27 years, I think now at this stage. But the idea was to map and plan out long distance walking routes, which were, people wanted at the time. So they did the East Clare Way first, which is 180 kilometers, and then the Mid-Clare Way, which is 130 kilometers. And then other routes, smaller loops, were developed off that. But it was basically to bring tourism to the more sensitive areas of the county. So, they were well before their time, really, when you think of it. They were ahead of themselves. There's no point doing all that work if people don't know about the walks, or, they're not out experiencing them. So we organize, but every second week, it used to be once a month, but since COVID, certainly the interest in walking has grown so much. We do a walk every second Thursday, a guided loop. And it can be anything from maybe 5K up to about 10K. So it's a morning walking, and we do a walk in East Clare 1 week, and then 2 weeks later we go to Mid-Clare. It has a number of things. It gets people out walking. It promotes the area. It brings people to little villages or towns or whatever that they'd never heard of. And what we do sometimes is we'd stop in maybe a local coffee shop or the local pub afterwards and have a cup of tea and a scone or something like that. So it's generating a little bit of business on a quiet Thursday morning as well. And that's done on a donation basis. Then there's a voluntary donation if people want to walk, and that money then goes back into the future maintenance of the walks to make sure they're going for years to come, even after my time with the organization, that they're still accessible and still safe and enjoyable for people.
If there's one walk in Mid-Clare, what would you recommend if people would say, I want to do a walk? Which one comes into your head?
Mid-Clare. There's a beautiful one, but it's very short. But Mahon Hillfort is between Quinn and Newmarket and Fergus. And like that, it's kind of a little bit of a hidden gem.
Yeah.
But you could walk to it from Newmarket and Fergus. There's a loop that's about 5 kilometers from Newmarket and Fergus, but it's an OPW site, and it's fantastic. It's a beautiful area. Another one then, I suppose, which has a collection of different walks, would be Dromore Woods in Rouen. Again, that's a beautiful one. So they'd be kind of my two, I suppose, in Mid-Clare. Around Quinn as well. I always love walking around Quinn. There's beautiful
I
walks
must
around
recommend
there.
people to your website. It's visit eastclare.ie. I went into the kind of history section of it, and I would recommend people to go into it if they like history, because I was reading about Queen Abbey, which I've known since I was a kid, but I love the fact or fiction section and talking about buried treasures, and there's some amazing history of that place.
Yeah, it is. And it's beautiful. There's just something so beautiful about walking through and walking the Abbey. And you have St. Finian's graveyard as well, which is an ancient graveyard and ruins of a church and everything. It's just a beautiful place to stroll around. Whether you're into history or not, even it's
true.
just gorgeous to walk through.
If you had to pick a favorite place, where would it be? What would that walk be for people that you'd recommend?
I suppose it would probably depend on the challenge you're looking for. And I'm probably biased in suggesting Killaloe because I'm living here. But, when I'm out walking with dogs, one of the walks I love is, maybe get a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and walk out the canal, the boardwalk along the canal in Killaloe. So you have the canal at one side and the Shannon at the other side, and stroll along through Tubbermurra, which is a small little forestry area, and it contains the well of Murra, which is said to be the place where Brian Boru baptized his oldest son, Murra. So you can stroll past that, and then there's a continuous footpath out along as far as Brian Boru's fort, which I just think is fabulous. It's a gorgeous place. Just so you're near enough to the town, but often all you can hear is maybe birdsong and boats, the occasional boats passing up and down. And that would have been really the area where Brian Boru was reared.
And he's such a mythical figure in Ireland. I mean, another place is Toomgraney, isn't it? St. Crona's Church in Toomgraney, which sounds amazing.
He's said to have walked through, I've visited that church, obviously, but the doorway that's there at the moment that you would walk through if you went to visit it, he is said to have walked through that's the original doorway. So that's you're literally just walking in his footsteps, which is amazing. You're
so close to history. I love that. And I think I read that it's the longest continuous in use church in Ireland and the UK since the 6th century. So that's amazing history.
Yeah, it's been there, and they still do service there. I think between Killaloe, Manshannon and Toomgraney, they would be all linked, but they still hold service there, and it's still used for concerts and everything, and small, functions, which is amazing. It's fantastic.
Another place which I think is very unique, and I think would be great to recommend to people is Inishcaltra, It sounds
Yes.
like a magical spot.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful. And of course, there's huge development planned for there over the coming years, which will be very exciting for the area because it's amazing. There's just so much to see. You know, you've the Round Tower, you've graveyards, you've the ruins of a number of different churches, and even just the boat trip out there is
Exactly.
gorgeous. You know, it's absolutely fantastic. And some people, what they do, because it's quite a short trip from just outside Mount Shannon, a place called Knockafort, you can actually paddle out to Holy Island from there, or you can go from Mount Shannon. It's, you know, it's a short kayaking distance if people want to take advantage of the blue way.
Views on the island. When you're on the island, you're looking at a kind of at the whole area around Lough Derg from another angle that
Yeah,
makes it
exactly.
completely different.
You're looking back on Clare and you're looking over at Tipperary, and you know,
Mm.
you could just see a panoramic view, I suppose,
Uh,
of the whole area, which is gorgeous.
And Mount Shannon's a great base then. It's sort of a place people might know about, I think
Yeah,
it's got great potential, isn't it?
it has definitely, yeah, yeah. It and hopefully it will bring, you know, I think over the years maybe it has got a little bit quieter in terms of tourism and in terms of the businesses that are there. I know there was a hotel there for years and that's closed. So hopefully the
Mm.
development of Holy Island will, or Inishkelter will bring a bit of buzz back to it because again it's one of those other beautiful little villages. It really is gorgeous and you're so close to the lake. You know, you can park in the village and just stroll down and you're right beside the lake. And again, there's beautiful walks there beside the lake, or you can actually go head up towards the mountain. And you know, you're strolling up, looking down on Mount Shannon and on the lake as well. There's beautiful walks up around there as well.
I've lots of friends who live in Killaloe that I visit, and they were saying that after the COVID times, when people started appreciating maybe more Ireland and,
Mm,
that Killaloe really took off.
it did. It did. People were really, as you say, appreciating what was on their doorstep and realizing how amazing it was. And that was something we kept hearing, in particular, the first year when we would have had a lot of domestic
Yeah.
visitors to the area. What we were hearing over and over again was, my God, I never knew it was here. Never knew it was like this. You know, we're only 2 hours down the motorway and you can go out in a kayak, go out in a boat, go swimming, you know, just take a
Yeah.
stroll. It was just, there was, you know, there's so much in the area that people just didn't realize was here. You know, even local people
I
themselves were
know.
taking advantage of things they had never done before. Because you know yourself, it's like everything. You're just so busy with work and everything. You go away somewhere and you'll do all these touristy things, but you don't do them on your own doorstep. And I think that was a huge positive outcome from COVID, if you can say it had positive outcomes.
Yeah.
But that would have been one of them. And I think as well, it's important that people almost become ambassadors for their own area because they obviously know what's there and how fantastic it is, and they're able to then sell that on to other people coming to the area.
Just my last question, because I know you're involved with the Killaloe Historical Society. So is there one historical site, like in the area, whether it's Killaloe or East Clare, that you say, yeah, you have to go there to see?
There's two, I suppose, that I love. One I've mentioned already, which is
Yeah.
Brian Brew's Fort, which is literally just on the main road between Killaloe and Ogonnelloe Scariff. You can just pull in and walk down to that. So that is just, to me, I just love it. Every time I go down there, I just kind of stop and
Yeah.
stand for a minute. But another site, which I think if you were in Killaloe would be worth seeing, is St. Flannan's Cathedral, a 13th century cathedral there. And again, it's in use every week for service, and there's concerts and events held there on a regular basis. But it's just really, really beautiful. Yeah, it's fantastic to have that right in the center of the town, and that it's still accessible and still in use and everything, which is great. And as I said, it's there since the 13th century.
So I'd like to thank my 4 guests today for part 1 of my Clare Special, and now available straight away is part 2 of Clare Special, where I have 4 more guests. We'll talk all about what Clare's got to offer, so maybe go over to that now. And if you want to get more information about Clare, go to their website, visitclare.ie, where everything from accommodation, itineraries, things to do, everything is there. So I'd really recommend that. Take care and safe travels.
You're listening to Travel Tales with Fergal.